Victoria Chen was having the worst morning of her life. And that was saying something, considering she ran a billion-dollar tech company and dealt with disasters almost daily. But this was different. This was personal. Her 8-month-old daughter Lily had been crying for 2 straight hours. Nothing worked. Not the bottle, not the pacifier, not the endless bouncing and shushing. Victoria's designer blouse was stained with spit up. Her hair was falling out of what used to be a sleek bun. And she had a meeting with investors in exactly 45 minutes. A meeting that could make or break her company's next big expansion. She pulled into the parking lot of a small neighborhood cafe she'd never been to before. It was nothing like the upscale spot she usually frequented downtown. The paint was slightly chipped, and the sign looked like it had been there since the 90s. But it was the closest place with coffee, and Victoria desperately needed caffeine to function. The bell above the door chimed as she walked in, practically stumbling under the weight of her diaper bag, purse, and still screaming Lily. The few customers inside looked up and Victoria caught their expressions. Some sympathetic, others annoyed. She was used to commanding boardrooms, giving TED Talks, being interviewed by major news outlets, but right now she just felt like a failure who couldn't even calm her own baby. "I'll be right with you," called the woman behind the counter, her voice kind despite the chaos Lily was creating. Victoria nodded and made her way to a corner table, trying to make herself as small as possible. She set the diaper bag down on one chair and tried once more to get Lily to take the pacifier. Nothing. The crying continued, each wail feeling like it was drilling directly into Victoria's skull. She glanced at her phone. 38 minutes until the meeting. She could still make it if she ordered quickly, chugged the coffee in the car, and hit every green light on the way back downtown. She stood up, leaving the diaper bag on the chair, and hurried to the counter with Lily still fussing in her arms. "Large coffee. Black and make it strong," Victoria said. Bouncing Lily automatically, though it wasn't helping. The woman smiled. "Rough morning?" "You have no idea." Victoria tried to return the smile but couldn't quite manage it. She paid without looking at the total, tapping her card impatiently. While she waited, she pulled out her phone with one hand, trying to check her emails. 3 messages from her assistant asking about presentation slides, 2 from board members, 1 from her mother asking when she was going to find a good man to help with that baby. Victoria felt her jaw clench. "Here you go, hon. I added an extra shot. On the house." "Thank you," Victoria mumbled, taking the cup carefully. She turned back toward her table to grab the diaper bag, and then she froze. There was a man sitting at her table, not next to her stuff but right there in her chair, and he was holding Lily, her baby, her daughter. In his arms, Victoria's heart stopped. Every protective instinct fired at once. She rushed over, hot coffee sloshing dangerously close to the lid. "Excuse me, what do you think you're doing?" Her voice came out sharper than she intended, loud enough that everyone in the cafe turned to look. The man looked up quickly, his eyes going wide. He was tall, probably in his mid-30s, wearing faded jeans with paint splatters and a gray t-shirt that had definitely seen better days. His hands were calloused and rough, she noticed, as they held Lily with surprising gentleness. And Lily wasn't crying anymore. She was drinking from her bottle, the one Victoria had tried to give her 20 times that morning. Her little hands wrapped around it as this complete stranger held her like he'd done it 1,000 times before. "I am so sorry," the man said immediately, starting to stand up. "I didn't mean to overstep. I just heard her crying and I saw you at the counter and I noticed the bottle in the bag and I thought maybe she was hungry and I have a little one myself so I know how hard it is and I just wanted to help." He was rambling, clearly nervous, but he moved slowly, carefully, not jostling Lily as he stood. Victoria's mind was racing. She should be furious. She should call the police. This was a stranger, holding her baby. Without permission, but Lily was calm. For the first time all morning, her daughter was peaceful. "You went through my diaper bag?" Victoria asked, trying to keep her voice steady. "Just to get the bottle. I didn't touch anything else, I swear. I warmed it up with hot water from the coffee station." "Here, please take her. I'm really sorry." He held Lily out, and Victoria quickly set her coffee down on the table and took her daughter back. The moment Lily was in her arms, Victoria felt her heart rate start to slow. She checked Lily over automatically, looking for any sign of distress, but her daughter just kept drinking the bottle, her eyes half closed in contentment. one tiny hand reaching up toward Victoria's face. "I'm Daniel," the man said quietly. "Daniel Rivera. I own a contracting business a few blocks from here. I come here every morning before work." Victoria looked at him properly for the first time. He had kind eyes, deep brown and sincere. There was tiredness in them, too, the kind she recognized from her own reflection. His hair was dark and slightly messy, and there was a small scar above his left eyebrow. "You said you have a kid?" she asked, still not sure what to make of this situation. "Yeah, a son. He's 3. I'm raising him on my own. His mom passed away a few years back." Daniel's voice got quieter on that last part. "I'm sorry," Victoria said automatically. Then, because she wasn't sure what else to say, "I'm Victoria." "Nice to meet you, Victoria. Even though I'm sure this isn't how you wanted to start your day." Despite everything, Victoria felt a small smile tug at her lips. "No, not exactly." She sat down in the other chair, and Daniel hesitantly sat back down too. Lily continued drinking, and Victoria just watched her, amazed. This was the same baby who had refused this exact bottle from her own mother 20 minutes ago. "How did you do that?" she asked. Daniel shrugged. "Sometimes babies just get worked up with their parents because they can sense our stress. I know when I'm having a rough day, my son picks up on it and gets fussy too. I noticed you seemed pretty stressed when you came in, and sometimes a neutral person can help. No magic trick, just luck." Victoria felt something twist in her chest. He was right. She had been stressed. She was always stressed lately. Running a company, being a single mother, trying to prove to everyone that she could do both. The board members who whispered that she should take maternity leave longer. The investors who asked pointed questions about her commitment level. Her own family who kept hinting that she needed help, meaning she needed a husband. "Thank you," Victoria said finally. "Really? I've been trying to get her to eat all morning." "No problem. I remember those days with my son. There were mornings I thought I'd lose my mind." Daniel smiled, and it transformed his whole face, making him look younger. "You said you have somewhere to be?" Victoria glanced at her phone. 22 minutes. She could still make it if she left right now. "Yeah, work meeting. Important one. You should probably get going then. But hey, the bottle's working. Maybe she'll stay calm for you now." Victoria stood up, gathering her things with one hand while holding Lily with the other. Daniel immediately stood too and helped her, picking up the diaper bag and hanging it on her shoulder carefully. "Thank you." "Again." "Anytime. Good luck with your meeting." Victoria nodded and headed toward the door, but just before she reached it, she turned back. Daniel had sat down again and pulled out a notebook, sketching something. He looked so ordinary, so normal, so different from everyone in her usual world of venture capitalists and tech entrepreneurs. "Daniel?" He looked up. "Same time tomorrow?" He looked surprised, then smiled again. "I'll be here." Victoria walked to her car, Lily still peacefully drinking her bottle. She buckled her daughter into the car seat, and Lily didn't even fuss, just kept drinking and looking up at her mother with those big, trusting eyes. As Victoria drove toward downtown, she kept thinking about Daniel's calloused hands and kind eyes, about how gentle he'd been with Lily, about how he'd known exactly what to do when she, the mother, had been completely lost. She made it to her meeting with 3 minutes to spare. The investors loved her presentation. The expansion got approved. It should have been one of the best days of her career. But all Victoria could think about was the man in the paint-stained jeans who had helped her when she needed it most. And how strange it was that a complete stranger had shown her more understanding in 5 minutes than most people in her life had shown her in months. She found herself looking forward to tomorrow morning in a way she hadn't looked forward to anything in a very long time. Victoria did go back the next morning, and the morning after that, and the one after that too. It became a routine she didn't want to admit she was looking forward to. Each morning at 7, she'd walk into that little cafe, and Daniel would already be there at the corner table sketching in his notebook while drinking black coffee. He'd look up, smile, and wave her over. They'd talk for 15, maybe 20 minutes before they both had to leave for work. She learned that Daniel had started his contracting business from nothing, that he worked constantly to provide for his son, Ben, that he'd loved his wife deeply and still missed her every day, but he was learning to live with the grief instead of drowning in it, that he made terrible jokes and had strong opinions about the best way to make scrambled eggs, Daniel learned that Victoria had built her tech company from the ground up too, starting in a garage with just an idea and determination. That Lily's father had left when she got pregnant, saying he wasn't ready for kids and wouldn't let a baby ruin his life. That Victoria's family was wealthy and traditional and deeply disappointed that she'd chosen career success over finding a suitable husband. That she was terrified of failing as a mother even though her company was worth billions. 3 weeks into their morning routine, Victoria's assistant called in a panic. There was a pipe leak in Victoria's penthouse apartment. Water was pouring through the ceiling of her home office, threatening her servers and equipment. She needed a contractor immediately. "I know someone," Victoria said, surprising herself. She'd been about to say she'd handle it through her building's management, but the words came out differently. 2 hours later, Daniel knocked on her penthouse door. Victoria watched his face as he walked in and took in the space. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Modern furniture that cost more than most cars. Original artwork on the walls. A kitchen with appliances most professional chefs would envy. "Wow," Daniel said quietly. Then he seemed to catch himself. "Sorry, that was unprofessional. Where's the leak?" Victoria led him to the home office. Water was still dripping steadily through a crack in the ceiling, and several of her files were already damaged. Daniel examined it carefully, taking photos and measurements. "The pipe's completely burst. I'll need to cut into the ceiling to fix it properly." "It's going to take a few days, and how much?" Victoria asked. Daniel named a price that was so reasonable she almost argued with him. In her world, people inflated costs just because they could. They saw her name and added zeros. But Daniel quoted her the same price he'd charge anyone else. "When can you start?" "Tomorrow morning, if that works for you," Victoria nodded. "I'll have my assistant arrange building access for you." But she didn't use her assistant. She arranged it herself, which her secretary pointed out was unusual. Victoria told her she was just being thorough. She didn't mention that she wanted an excuse to be there while Daniel worked. The next morning, Daniel arrived at 8 with his tools and supplies. He also brought Ben. "Babysitter called in sick," Daniel explained, looking embarrassed. "I can reschedule if this is a problem." Victoria looked at the little boy holding his father's hand. Ben had the same kind eyes as Daniel, and he was staring around the apartment with open-mouthed wonder. "It's fine," Victoria heard herself say. "Lily's here anyway. They can play." That was how Victoria Chen, tech billionaire and CEO, spent her Tuesday morning sitting on her living room floor with a 3-year-old boy and her 8-month-old daughter, building towers out of blocks while Daniel fixed her ceiling. Ben was shy at first, but he warmed up quickly. He showed Lily his toy truck, pushing it gently across the floor while making engine sounds. Lily laughed, that deep belly laugh that babies do, and reached for the truck. Victoria watched them play while answering emails on her phone, and something inside her chest felt warm and unfamiliar. During lunch, Daniel came out of the office covered in dust and drywall particles. Victoria had ordered Thai food from her usual place downtown, enough for all of them. Daniel looked at the spread of containers and raised his eyebrows. "This is too much," he said. "I always order too much. It'll just go to waste otherwise." They ate together at her dining table, Ben sitting on his knees to reach the table properly, chattering about his daycare and his friends and his favorite cartoon. Lily sat in her high chair gnawing on a teething toy. It felt strangely domestic sitting there with them. Like a family dinner, except Daniel wasn't family. He was just the contractor fixing her ceiling, except he didn't feel like just the contractor anymore. "Can I ask you something?" Daniel said after Ben ran off to play with the blocks again. "Sure. Why did you keep coming back? To the cafe, I mean." "You didn't have to." Victoria set down her fork, considering the question. She could give him a surface answer. Say it was convenient, or the coffee was good, or she liked the quiet atmosphere. But that would be lying. "Because you didn't treat me differently," she said finally. "Everyone in my life either wants something from me or judges me for my choices. You just talked to me like I was a normal person." Daniel nodded slowly. "You are a normal person. You just happen to be really good at business. Tell that to my mother. She thinks I'm destroying Lily's life by working. Are you?" The question should have offended her, but coming from Daniel, it felt genuine. Like he actually wanted to know what she thought, not just confirm his own opinion. "I don't think so. I'm building something for her. Security, independence, a legacy. I'm showing her that women can do anything. Sounds like good parenting to me." Victoria felt that warmth in her chest again. The days blended together. Daniel came every morning to work on the repairs, and somehow it always took a little longer than expected. Not because he was dragging out the job, Victoria realized, but because they kept talking. Taking breaks to have coffee, watching the kids play, sharing stories about their lives. She learned that Daniel's wife Rachel had died in a car accident, that he blamed himself for years because they'd had a fight that morning and she'd left upset, that he'd almost lost Ben to his in-laws who wanted custody because they thought a single father couldn't raise a child properly, that he'd fought for his son and won, but the legal battle had drained his savings and nearly destroyed his business. Daniel learned that Victoria's father had wanted a son and never quite forgave her for being a daughter, that her ex-boyfriend Trevor had proposed to her only after she made her first million, not before when she was sleeping in her office and eating ramen for dinner, that she'd broken up with Trevor when she got pregnant because she realized he loved her money more than he loved her, that she was building her company partly to prove everyone wrong who said she couldn't do it. On Friday afternoon, Daniel finished the repairs. The ceiling looked perfect, better than before. He packed up his tools slowly, and Victoria found herself wishing there was another pipe to burst. All done, Daniel said, wiping his hands on a rag. You shouldn't have any more problems. Thank you. For everything. They stood there awkwardly in her foyer, neither one moving toward the door. I guess I'll see you at the cafe, Daniel said finally. Yeah, Monday morning. But Monday felt too far away. Actually, Victoria said before she could think better of it, tomorrow is Lily's first birthday. I'm having a small party here. Would you and Ben want to come? Daniel's face lit up. We'd love to. What time? 2:00. After Daniel left, Victoria sat down on her couch and wondered what she was doing. The party wasn't going to be small. Her mother had insisted on inviting half of their social circle. There would be business associates, distant relatives, and people Victoria barely knew. It was going to be one of those elaborate children's parties that was really for adults to network, and she'd just invited Daniel and Ben into that world. Her assistant called that evening to confirm catering details. Also, your mother wants to know if you've finalized the guest list. She's concerned about the seating chart. Tell her I added 2 more guests, Daniel Rivera and his son Ben. There was a pause. The contractor? Yes, another pause. Should I seat them with the business associates or the family? Victoria thought about it. Actually, seat them next to me. Saturday arrived with perfect weather and mounting anxiety. The party planners transformed Victoria's penthouse into a fairy tale wonderland, complete with professional balloon arrangements, a dessert table that belonged in a magazine, and a cake that cost more than some people's monthly rent. Guests started arriving at 2. Victoria's mother came first, dressed impeccably and immediately criticizing the flower arrangements. Then came the business associates with expensive gifts and fake smiles. Then the relatives, most of whom Victoria saw once a year at most. By 2:30, Daniel still hadn't arrived, and Victoria was starting to think he'd changed his mind. She couldn't blame him. This wasn't his world. Then the doorbell rang, and there he was. Daniel had dressed up. He wore khaki pants and a button-down shirt that was slightly wrinkled but clean. Ben was in tiny dress pants and a bow tie, looking adorable and uncomfortable. Daniel held a small wrapped present, and he looked nervous. We're not too late, are we? You're perfect, Victoria said, and meant it. She introduced them around, and she watched people's faces as they realized Daniel was the contractor. The polite smiles that didn't reach their eyes. The way they sized him up and... Trevor's eyes narrowed as he looked between Victoria and Daniel. So that's how it is now? You're dating the help? Victoria felt her face flush with anger. Don't talk about him like that. I'm just stating facts. I mean, look at him, Victoria. Look at you. You're a billionaire CEO, and he's a contractor. Do you really think this is going to work? Daniel's jaw clenched, but he stayed quiet. Victoria knew that look. It was the same one she got in board meetings when someone underestimated her. The look of someone deciding whether a person was worth the energy to argue with. Trevor, you need to leave. Now. Not until we talk. Trevor reached for Victoria's arm, and that's when Daniel stepped between them. She asked you to leave, Daniel said calmly, but there was steel in his voice. I think you should respect that. Trevor laughed. And who are you to tell me what to do? You think because you fixed her pipes you matter? Let me tell you something, friend. People like you are a dime a dozen in her world. You're temporary. I'm permanent. The only thing permanent about you is your ego, Victoria snapped. She could feel people starting to stare, the party going quiet around them. You left me when I needed you. You wanted me to give up my baby, and now you show up here pretending you care? You don't care about Lily. You don't even care about me. You care about my money. Trevor's mask slipped for just a second and Victoria saw the coldness underneath. Then he smiled again, that practiced, charming smile. You're emotional right now. We can talk when you're calmer. I am calm, and I'm telling you to get out of my home. Fine. Trevor straightened his tie. But we're not done, Victoria. Lily is my daughter, whether you like it or not. Biologically, legally, she's mine, and I have rights. Victoria felt ice run through her veins. What are you talking about? I've been consulting with lawyers. Did you know that as Lily's biological father, I can file for custody? Partial, at least. Maybe full if I can prove you're an unfit mother. And between the long work hours, the nannies, the new boyfriend who's clearly not suitable, he gestured at Daniel. Well, I think I have a case. You can't be serious. I'm very serious. Think about it, Vic. We can do this the easy way or the hard way. Get back together, give Lily a proper two-parent home, and I'll drop it. Or fight me, and I'll drag you through family court while the media has a field day with it. Your choice. He turned and walked out, leaving Victoria standing there in shock. The party fell apart after that. Guests made awkward excuses and left quickly, not wanting to be part of the drama. Victoria's mother stayed long enough to say, I told you having a baby alone was a mistake, before leaving in a huff. Within an hour, only Daniel and Ben remained, helping Victoria's assistant clean up. Victoria sat on her couch holding Lily, feeling numb. This couldn't be happening. Trevor couldn't take her daughter. He couldn't. Hey, Daniel said softly, sitting down beside her. Ben had fallen asleep in the ball pit, exhausted from the excitement. Are you okay? No, Victoria's voice cracked. He can't do this. He can't just show up and threaten to take her. He's bluffing. He has to be. What if he's not? What if he really does have a case? I work 60, 70 hours a week. I have nannies and assistants and I miss bedtimes and I'm always stressed and what if the court decides he's right? What if I'm a bad mother? Stop. Daniel took her hand. You are not a bad mother. You're an amazing mother. You're building a future for your daughter. You're showing her what strength looks like. Don't let him make you doubt yourself. Victoria looked down at Lily, sleeping peacefully in her arms. I can't lose her, Daniel. She's everything. You won't. We'll figure this out. We? Daniel squeezed her hand. Yeah, we. If you want the help, I mean, I'm here. Victoria felt tears spill over. When was the last time someone had offered to help her without wanting something in return? When was the last time she'd felt like she wasn't carrying everything alone? Thank you, she whispered. They sat there in the quiet, surrounded by the remnants of a party that had gone so wrong, and somehow Victoria felt a little less scared. Over the next few weeks, Trevor made good on his threats. Papers were filed. Lawyers were hired. And worse, Trevor leaked the story to the media. The headlines were brutal. Billionaire CEO too busy for baby. Father seeks custody. Victoria Chen's boyfriend. Who is the mystery man raising her child? Tech mogul's troubled home life. Is success coming at a cost? The articles painted Victoria as a career-obsessed woman who'd chosen money over motherhood. They painted Daniel as an unqualified stranger who was around Victoria's daughter too much. They painted Trevor as a concerned father just wanting what was best for his child. It was all lies, but people believed it anyway. Victoria's board called an emergency meeting. They were worried about the company's image, about investors getting cold feet, about the upcoming product launch being overshadowed by her personal drama. Maybe you should take a step back, one board member suggested, just until this blows over. Step back from my own company. Just temporarily. It would show that you're prioritizing family. Good optics, Victoria wanted to scream. If she was a man, they'd be praising her work ethic, not questioning it. But she held her tongue and told them she'd consider it. Daniel's life was falling apart too. The publicity had reached his world as well. Some of his clients canceled contracts, uncomfortable with being associated with the drama. His in-laws, Rachel's parents, saw the news coverage and filed for custody of Ben. They're saying I'm neglecting him, Daniel told Victoria on the phone one night, his voice hollow. They're saying I'm too focused on you and your daughter to properly care for my own son. "This is my fault," Victoria said. "If I hadn't invited you to that party, if I hadn't gotten you involved in my mess, this isn't your fault. Trevor's doing this, not you. But if we hadn't," Victoria trailed off. "Hadn't what? Become friends? Started caring about each other?" She didn't want to name what was happening between them, because naming it made it real, and real things could be used against them in court. "Maybe we should stop seeing each other," Daniel said quietly, "just until both our custody cases are settled. For the kids." Victoria's heart sank, but she knew he was right. Their lawyers had said the same thing. The more they were seen together, the worse it looked for both of them. "Okay," Victoria whispered. "I'm sorry." "Me too." They stopped meeting at the cafe, stopped texting, stopped calling. Victoria threw herself into work, trying to prove to everyone that she could handle both her company and her daughter. She hired the best family lawyer in the state. She documented every moment she spent with Lily, every feeding, every diaper change, every bedtime story. But Lily noticed Daniel was gone. She'd crawl to the door and look around like she was searching for him. She'd cry when she saw other men, like she thought they might be him. It broke Victoria's heart. Ben was the same way, Daniel's mother told Victoria in a brief phone call. He kept asking about Lily and Miss Victoria, and didn't understand why they couldn't visit anymore. The preliminary custody hearings were brutal. Trevor's lawyers painted Victoria as a workaholic who barely knew her own daughter. They brought up the nannies, the business trips, the late nights at the office. They brought up Daniel, calling him a man of questionable judgment, and suggesting Victoria was putting her daughter in danger by allowing strangers around her. Victoria's lawyer fought back hard, bringing up Trevor's abandonment, his refusal to be involved in the pregnancy, his sudden interest only after Victoria's net worth increased. But it was clear the judge was concerned about Victoria's work schedule. "Ms. Chen," the judge said during one hearing, "I understand you're a successful businesswoman, but this child needs stability. She needs a parent who is present. I am present, Your Honor. I love my daughter more than anything. I'm sure you do, but love isn't enough. Children need time and attention." The implication was clear. Victoria wasn't giving Lily enough of either. The hearing ended with temporary orders. Victoria would maintain primary custody for now, but Trevor was granted supervised visitation every other weekend. They'd reconvene in 3 months for a final decision. Victoria sat in her lawyer's office afterward, feeling defeated. "This isn't over," her lawyer said. "We can still win this." "How?" The judge basically said, "I'm a bad mother." The judge said, "You work a lot. We need to show that you're making changes. Cutting back on hours, being more present, creating a stable home environment." "And Daniel?" The lawyer hesitated. "It would be better if you stayed away from him until this is resolved. I know that's not what you want to hear, but romantically involved with someone during a custody battle, especially someone the other side is using against you, it complicates things." Victoria nodded numbly. She'd already stopped seeing Daniel, but hearing it officially from her lawyer made it feel more permanent, more real. She went home to her empty penthouse and held Lily close, breathing in her baby shampoo smell and promising her silently that she'd fix this. Somehow, 3 weeks later, Victoria was working from home when her assistant called. "Trevor's been arrested." Victoria nearly dropped her phone. "What?" "It's all over the news. Securities fraud. The FBI raided his office this morning. Apparently he's been running some kind of investment scam for years." Victoria pulled up the news on her computer. There it was, Trevor's face on every major outlet. The details were still. 2 weeks felt like an eternity. Victoria and Daniel talked every night after the kids were asleep, their conversations stretching into the early morning hours. They talked about everything and nothing, about their hopes for the custody hearings, about their fears, about what might happen if things went their way. They didn't see each other in person, though. Daniel's lawyer had been very clear. Until the judge made a final ruling on Ben's custody, any connection to Victoria could be used against him. So they waited, existing in this strange in-between space where they were more than friends but couldn't be together. Victoria threw herself into work, but she made changes. Real ones. She promoted her deputy to co-CEO, someone she trusted completely to handle day-to-day operations. She cut her hours from 70 a week to 40. She made it home for dinner with Lily every single night. She stopped checking emails after 8 p.m. Her board was concerned at first, but the company didn't fall apart without her constant oversight. In fact, some things improved. Her deputy brought fresh perspectives. The team felt more empowered to make decisions. Victoria realized she'd been holding on too tight, afraid that letting go even a little meant failure. "You seem lighter," her assistant commented one afternoon. Victoria looked up from playing with Lily on the office floor. "What? Lighter, happier? I don't know how to describe it. You're different." Maybe she was. For the first time in years, Victoria felt like she was living instead of just surviving. She wasn't proving anything to anyone anymore. She was just being a mother, running a company, and falling in love with a man who saw her for who she really was. Daniel's hearing arrived on a cold Tuesday morning. Victoria wanted to be there, but they'd agreed it was too risky. So she waited at home, pacing her apartment, her phone clutched in her hand. The hours crawled by. Noon came and went. 1 o'clock too. Victoria was about to lose her mind when her phone finally rang. "I got him," Daniel said, his voice thick with emotion. "Full custody. The judge ruled in my favor. Ben stays with me." Victoria sank onto her couch, relief flooding through her. "Oh, thank God, Daniel, I'm so happy for you." The judge said that while the publicity around us was concerning, my in-laws couldn't prove any actual neglect. And when they interviewed Ben separately, he told them he wanted to stay with his dad. The judge listened to him. "That's amazing. Victoria, it's over. The case is closed. There's nothing stopping us anymore." Victoria's heart raced. "Are you sure?" "I'm sure." "Can I see you?" "Tonight?" "Yes, God, yes." They agreed to meet at the cafe where it all started. Victoria arrived first, nervous energy making her early. She'd changed clothes 3 times, settling on jeans and a simple sweater. Nothing fancy. She wanted Daniel to see her, just her. Not the billionaire CEO, but the woman who'd stumbled into this cafe exhausted and overwhelmed. When Daniel walked in with Ben, Victoria's breath caught. It had only been a month, but she'd missed his face so much. Ben spotted her first and broke into a huge grin. "Miss Victoria." He ran to her and she scooped him up. "Hi, buddy. I missed you." "I missed you too. Where's Lily?" "She's with my nanny tonight." "I thought we could have some grown-up time first." Daniel reached them, and for a moment they just looked at each other. Then Victoria set Ben down and stood, and Daniel pulled her into a hug. He smelled like sawdust and coffee and home, and Victoria felt something in her chest settle. "Hi," Daniel whispered against her hair. "Hi yourself." They sat down, Ben chattering away about his day while they ordered coffee and hot chocolate. It felt so natural, so right sitting there with them, like coming home after a long trip. After Ben finished his hot chocolate and went to look at the muffins in the display case, Daniel reached across the table and took Victoria's hand. "I have something to tell you," he said. Victoria's stomach flipped. "Okay." "This last month, being apart from you, it made me realize something. Life's too short to waste time. Rachel died suddenly without warning. One day she was here and the next she was gone. I spent years being afraid to move forward because of guilt and fear. But you've made me want to live again. Really live." "Daniel, let me finish. I know we're different. I know our worlds don't make sense on paper. You're this brilliant, successful woman who's built an empire. I'm just a contractor trying to raise his kid and pay the bills. But I don't care about that anymore. I care about you. I care about how you make me laugh, how you're an amazing mother, how you see the best in people. I care about building a life with you." Victoria felt tears prick her eyes. "I care about you too. So much. Good. Because I'd really like to take you on an actual date. Not hiding. Not worrying about lawyers or judges or what people think. Just us. I'd like that too." They went on that date the following Saturday. Daniel insisted on planning it himself, and he told Victoria to dress casually. She showed up at his apartment at 6, and he answered the door with paint in his hair. "Sorry," he said, laughing. "Ben decided to help me with a project. Come in." Daniel's apartment was small, maybe a tenth the size of Victoria's penthouse, but it was warm and lived in, with Ben's drawings on the fridge and photos on every surface. Rachel smiled out from many of them, beautiful and happy, and Victoria felt no jealousy. Just sadness for what Daniel had lost. Ben gave her a tour, proudly showing off his room and the bunk bed Daniel had built himself. Then Daniel's mother arrived to babysit, a tiny woman with Daniel's kind eyes who hugged Victoria like they were already family. "You take care of my boy," she whispered. "He deserves to be happy." "I'll try," Victoria promised. Daniel took her to a food truck festival in a neighborhood Victoria had never been to. They ate tacos and tried different desserts, wandering through the crowds hand in hand. No one recognized her. No one cared who she was or what she was worth. She was just a woman on a date with a man who made her laugh. "This is perfect," Victoria said as they sat on a bench watching people dance to live music. Yeah, I can't remember the last time I did something like this. Just existed without an agenda." Daniel squeezed her hand. "Get used to it. I'm going to make you do all sorts of normal people things. Movies, picnics, maybe even a trip to the county fair." Victoria laughed. "I don't think I've been to a fair since I was a kid." "Then we're definitely going." They dated for 3 months, taking things slow. Daniel met Victoria's mother officially, which went about as well as expected. Her mother was polite but cool, clearly disapproving of Victoria's choice. But Victoria didn't care anymore. She'd spent her whole life trying to earn her mother's approval. She was done. Daniel's mother, on the other hand, welcomed Victoria with open arms. She taught Victoria how to make Daniel's favorite meal and showed her photos of Daniel as a kid. She told stories about Rachel, keeping her memory alive but also making room for Victoria in their family. The kids adjusted quickly. Ben and Lily played together like siblings, fighting over toys and giggling at each other. Ben started calling Victoria Miss Vicky, which melted her heart every time. Lily said Dada more confidently now, and it was clear she meant Daniel. Victoria's company continued thriving without her constant micromanaging. She made it to all of Lily's doctor appointments, all of her milestone moments. She even took a full week off to take the 4 of them on a beach vacation, something she'd never done before. But not everything was perfect. The media attention hadn't completely died down. Some outlets still ran stories about the billionaire and the contractor, painting their relationship as scandalous or opportunistic. Daniel's business suffered a bit from the attention. Some clients didn't want the publicity. Others made assumptions about his motives. "They think I'm with you for your money," Daniel told Victoria one night as they sat on her balcony after putting the kids to bed. "I know. Does it bother you?" "Not even a little. I know the truth. You knew me when I was covered in spit up and hadn't slept in days. You didn't fall for the CEO, you fell for the mess." Daniel laughed. "You were pretty messy that first day." "Shut up," he pulled her closer. "For what it's worth, some people get it. I had a client today tell me she thinks it's romantic, that I'm lucky to have found you." "You are lucky," Victoria teased. "Yeah, I really am." 6 months into their relationship, Victoria's board started pushing her about taking the company public. An IPO would make her billions more, cement her legacy, and give her investors a massive return. But going public meant more scrutiny, more pressure, more time. She'd have shareholders to answer to, quarterly earnings to meet, constant media attention. "What do you want to do?" Daniel asked when she told him about it. "I don't know. Part of me wants it. It's what I've been working toward for years. But part of me is scared I'll lose myself again, that I'll become that person who works 70 hours a week and misses everything important. You won't. You're different now." "How do you know?" "Because you choose differently now. You choose Lily. You choose me and Ben. You choose the life you want instead of the life you think you should have." Victoria thought about that. He was right. A year ago, she would have jumped at the IPO without hesitation, success at any cost. But now she had more to lose. What if I did it but set boundaries? What if I made it clear from the start that I work 40 hours a week, that I'm home for dinner, that my family comes first? Would they let you? "I'm the CEO, they'd have to," Daniel smiled. Stepping down as CEO should have felt like defeat. Victoria had spent years building her company from nothing, sacrificing relationships and sleep, and sometimes her own happiness to make it succeed. But walking out of that boardroom, she felt nothing but relief. She went home and found Daniel painting the spare bedroom. They decided to turn it into a playroom for the kids, something bright and fun where Ben and Lily could make as much mess as they wanted. "How'd it go?" Daniel asked, setting down his roller. "I did it. I stepped down." Daniel studied her face. "How do you feel?" Victoria thought about it. Really thought about it. "Free, I feel free." He smiled and pulled her close, getting paint on her shirt. She didn't care. The media had a field day with Victoria's decision. Some painted it as a woman being pushed out of her own company. Others said she was finally prioritizing family. A few suggested she'd cracked under pressure. Victoria ignored all of it. She'd learned that no matter what she did, someone would have an opinion. The only opinions that mattered were her own and the people she loved. With more time on her hands, Victoria threw herself into fighting Trevor's custody appeal. She documented everything, kept detailed records, and worked closely with her lawyer to build an airtight case. But she also made sure to actually live her life. She had breakfast with her family every morning. She took Lily to music classes and Ben to the park. She helped Daniel with his business, using her expertise to streamline his operations and expand his client base. Daniel's company grew quickly with Victoria's help. Within 6 months, he had to hire 3 more people. Within a year, he was bidding on commercial projects he'd never dreamed of landing, but he never forgot where he came from. He still took on small residential jobs, still helped neighbors who couldn't afford expensive contractors, still remembered what it was like to struggle. You could charge way more, you know, Victoria told him one day as she reviewed his estimates. I could, but then I'd be pricing out the people who actually need help. I didn't start this business to get rich. I started it to provide for Ben and do good work. Victoria kissed him. Have I mentioned lately that I love you? Not in the last hour, so I was getting worried. Trevor's appeal hearing finally arrived 14 months after their wedding. Victoria and Daniel sat in the courtroom, hands clasped tightly while lawyers argued back and forth. Trevor sat across the aisle, looking thinner and older than Victoria remembered. The fraud charges had aged him. He was facing prison time if convicted, but he was still fighting for Lily. Or rather, fighting to hurt Victoria. She understood now that it had never been about Lily at all. Trevor's lawyer argued that Victoria's decision to step down as CEO proved she was unstable, that her relationship with Daniel showed poor judgment, that Lily deserved a father figure who was financially successful and socially acceptable. Victoria's lawyer dismantled every argument. She presented evidence of Victoria's active involvement in Lily's life, testimonies from teachers and doctors about Lily's health and happiness. She even had a child psychologist testify that removing Lily from her current stable home would be traumatic. Then Daniel was called to testify. Victoria watched nervously as he took the stand. Trevor's lawyer immediately went on the attack. Mr. Rivera, you're a contractor, correct? Yes. And what's your annual income? Daniel named a number that was respectable but nowhere near Victoria's wealth. Trevor's lawyer smirked. So you make in a year what Mrs. Rivera's company makes in a day. Don't you think that's quite a gap? Objection, Victoria's lawyer said. Relevance? I'm establishing the disparity in their backgrounds, Your Honor. The judge nodded. I'll allow it, but get to your point. Trevor's lawyer turned back to Daniel. Mr. Rivera, isn't it true that you were struggling financially before meeting Mrs. Rivera? That your business was barely breaking even? My business was doing fine. Not great, but fine. And now, with Mrs. Rivera's help and connections, you're doing much better. Convenient, isn't it? Daniel's jaw clenched. Victoria wanted to object, to defend him, but she had to trust the process. I'm doing better because I work hard. And Victoria helped me see opportunities I was missing. That's what partners do. They help each other. Or partners take advantage of each other. Tell me, Mr. Rivera, if Mrs. Rivera weren't wealthy, would you still be with her? Absolutely. I fell in love with her when she was a stressed-out mom who couldn't get her baby to stop crying. I didn't know how much money she had. I didn't care. That's easy to say now. It's the truth. Daniel looked directly at Trevor. Unlike some people, I don't measure a person's worth by their bank account. I measure it by who they are and how they treat others. And Victoria is the kindest, strongest, most amazing person I've ever met. I'd be lucky to be with her if she was a billionaire or broke. Victoria felt tears sting her eyes. Trevor's lawyer tried to continue, but Daniel's testimony had clearly resonated with the judge. Then it was Victoria's turn. She testified about her relationship with Lily, about her daily routine, about how stepping back from the CEO role had allowed her to be more present. She talked about the life she'd built with Daniel and Ben, about their blended family, about how happy Lily was. Trevor's lawyer tried to rattle her, bringing up old interviews where she'd talked about prioritizing her career. But Victoria stood firm. Those interviews were years ago, before I had Lily. Yes, I prioritized my career then. But people grow. People change. My daughter is my priority now. Everything else comes second. Even your company that you built? Even that. Because at the end of my life, no one's going to care about my quarterly earnings or my stock price. They're going to care about whether I was a good mother, a good wife, a good person, And I'm trying every day to be all of those things. Finally, Trevor himself testified. Victoria watched him lie smoothly about suddenly wanting to be involved in Lily's life, about being concerned for her well-being, about wanting to be a father. It was a good performance. Convincing, even. But then Victoria's lawyer asked one simple question. "Mr. Blackwood, can you tell me Lily's favorite food?" Trevor blinked. I'm not sure. Baby food. She's almost 2 years old. She eats regular food. Can you name any food she likes? I haven't had much time with her to observe. What about her bedtime? When does she usually go to sleep? I don't know the exact time. Her favorite toy? I'm sure she has many toys. Her pediatrician's name? I don't have that information. Her daycare? Trevor's lawyer objected, saying these were gotcha questions, but the damage was done. Trevor didn't know his own daughter. He'd never tried to know her. He just wanted to punish Victoria. The judge called a recess, and Victoria and Daniel stepped outside. Victoria was shaking. You did great in there, Daniel said, pulling her close. What if it's not enough? It will be. The judge can see the truth. They waited 3 agonizing weeks for the judge's decision. Victoria tried to stay busy, but it was hard not to obsess over every possible outcome. What if she lost? What if they gave Trevor partial custody? What if Lily had to spend weekends with a man who didn't even know her favorite food? Finally, the call came. They had to return to court for the judge's ruling. Victoria sat in the courtroom, Daniel on one side and her lawyer on the other, while the judge reviewed the case. Trevor sat across the aisle looking confident. Too confident. Victoria felt sick. This has been a complex case, the judge began. On one hand, we have a biological father requesting custody of his daughter. On the other, we have a mother who has been the primary caregiver since birth. The court must always consider what's in the best interest of the child. Victoria held her breath. After reviewing all the testimony and evidence, I've come to a conclusion. Mr. Blackwood, your sudden interest in custody only arose after Ms. Chen's financial success became public knowledge. You showed no interest during the pregnancy or the first year of your daughter's life. Your inability to answer basic questions about your daughter's daily routine, preferences, or medical care demonstrates a lack of genuine involvement or interest. Trevor's face went red. Furthermore, your pending criminal charges for securities fraud raise serious questions about your character and judgment. The court cannot in good conscience place a child in the care of someone facing potential incarceration. Your Honor, Trevor's lawyer objected, but the judge held up a hand. In contrast, Ms. Chen has demonstrated consistent, loving care for her daughter. She has made significant changes to her professional life to prioritize parenting. She has created a stable, nurturing home environment. Her marriage to Mr. Rivera has only strengthened that environment, not weakened it. Victoria felt Daniel squeeze her hand. Therefore, the court rules in favor of Ms. Chen. Full custody remains with the mother. Mr. Blackwood's visitation rights are permanently terminated. Furthermore, Mr. Blackwood is ordered to pay child support in an amount commensurate with his income and is prohibited from filing any further custody actions. Except under extraordinary circumstances. The gavel came down. It was over. Victoria burst into tears right there in the courtroom. Daniel pulled her into his arms and she sobbed against his chest, relief and joy and exhaustion all pouring out at once. Trevor stood up and stormed out without a word, his lawyer hurrying after him. You did it, Daniel whispered. She's yours completely. She's ours, Victoria corrected.